Can you please go back, Bob? Yeah. Of which two of those are elected by Parliament. The other three are from are nominated by the sector as well as government shareholder. In them we have four males and one female. Sorry, two females and three males. That's what I meant to say. It's two females and three males. Yes, and the two females are the ones that we appointed, and then we've got three males who were appointed, one by the National Association of Broadcasters, one by the shareholder, and one by the print sector. Of the ones that are remaining, Chairperson, Mr. Ngoma, if you can go to the next slide. The chairperson of the MDDA board, that is Mr. Norman Mzerere, has a vast experience in broadcasting policy and regulation. He, as we know, that he served most of his career as a DDG at the Department of Communications in Pretoria, the then Department of Communications. He's currently serving as the chairperson of the board, and he was nominated by NEB. The next one who was nominated by the department itself is Mr. Colin Dimakato Mashilo. Many of you might know he's the Chief Director for Broadcasting Policy at the Department of Communications, and he's quite strong on media, content, telecommunications, and broadcasting matters. He often attends our meetings. I think honorable members will recall if they just put the face to the name. The next candidate, Mr. Ngoma, is Mr. Khaha Monare. He is appointed by the print media, I think, and he's strong background in the publishing sector, as it may, and has worked for the Times and so forth. And the next one, Mr. Ngoma, is Dr. Mbava. She's quite an expert in the monitoring and evaluation of institutions, and that's a strong background, basically. And she was also nominated by Parliament. And the last one, Mr. Ngoma. Mr. Ngoma. Yes, Martina de la Togna was also appointed by us. She's more on the communications aspect of things, but also a practitioner in the sector, having been a producer in the past. She was also appointed by the committee. Chair, with your indulgence, just the last part that I thought that I would want to highlight for as an emphasis for today's process is that the Act of the MDDA just does dictate what kind of people that we expect to nominate in Section 4C. And in that it says persons appointed to the board must be persons who are committed to fairness, freedom of expression, openness and accountability on the part of those entrusted with the governance of the public service. When viewed collectively, are representative of a broad cross-section of population of the Republic and possess suitable qualifications, expertise, and experience in fields such as community media, social, labor, and development issues, media economics, financial management and funding, advertising and marketing, journalism and broadcast programming, media research, media training, literacy and education, media law, information and communication technology policy. So I think, Chairperson, in a nutshell, those are the kind of characteristics that we look to shortlist within this process. Obviously, take into consideration that the current board members have to be complemented in terms of the skills that they need, and noting that, of course, two of those board members' terms will be ending on October 2020. I thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
October 2020. Thank you, Mr. Malika, for the presentation. I'm sure members would have listened to you just to remind themselves. And I'm sure at this point, honorable members, I'll give an opportunity for clarity seeking questions, so that then when we get to the next phase, we are all in one. Can I just take hands then for those who may want to just have clarity questions at this point from what Mr. Malika has presented? Honorable Kubeka, you are one. Any other name? Any other question? Okay, only Honorable Kubeka. You can then go in.
Thank you, Chair, and also greetings to all members of the subcommittee and officials. Let me also welcome this short presentation that our content advisor is trying to give us in order that we must clear. Chair, it's only just a small thing that I would like just to ask it to content advisor. I'm saying at the moment, as we know that we need to have those vacancies that they were presented. Can just he repeated the issue of saying actually at the moment in those positions, which skills is it necessary that we need to focus on it at the moment in those four positions that we are talking about? Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Malika, would you want to speak to the question that Honorable Kubeka would have asked?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think that in terms of the MDDA board, we have to also take into consideration the past history of governance issues that we've really experienced at that level. And I think that the committee will recall that on numerous occasions I've highlighted that the committee was almost close to holding an inquiry similar to the one that we held with the SABC because of the kind of maladministration that was happening at that institution. So I think that having said that, Chairperson, in my own view, I think that we need a strong focus on a person that would at least focus more on the auditing issues of the organizations, or as well as on the funding, disbursed funding. Let's just say, call it funding issues, because the entity in itself by nature deals with a lot of disbursements of funds and grants to community media across the country. And that has been a critical area of lack, if I may say, in terms of how that is administered. So we need a strong focus on the financial issues as well as the auditing issues, because as we will recall that after 10 years of a clean audit, after Mr. Lumkomtit left the entity, it never recovered. It was always on the red zone. And we need to get that entity out of that red zone to its former glory. And most importantly, that the candidates that we will have in that board are dedicated to ensuring service delivery to the people. Because if those grants don't get to the people that it's meant for, then it means that the community media suffers in one way or the other. And we also need someone who's more of a technologist, who would understand where we want the MDDA to play in the 4IR context. So I think we won't be able to do justice, Honorable Chair, to cover all the skills that we need in this current crop. But I think that I'm trying to sort of guide the committee of the most urgent skills that I personally think that we could really focus on, and then hoping that we will complement them going forward with the others. I thank you, Chair. I hope I've answered, Honourable Member.
Honourable Kubeka, I'm sure you've been answered on that question. Yeah, just
Thank you, Chair. I have answered.
Okay, just for purposes of clarity, after Mr. Malika would have presented the existing members as well as what they have and so on. Just check with the committee sectorial support in relation to the list that we have. I have seen that on the consolidated list, 112, I think, yeah, it's number 12. On number 12, vis-a-vis what has been presented, whether it's a you've captured that wrongly, or what could have been the situation. Della, Tonga, Martina. I also saw that name flagged on there. So I just want us to get clarity first before we even proceed to the next phase. I hope you do get the point. You've got the summaries of CVs, you've got a consolidated list of nominees, and I'm saying if you go to the consolidated list of nominees to number 12, now we have this other one on what Mr. Malika has presented as sitting councillors or board members. Can you clarify that point?
Chairperson, Mr. Ngoma will respond to that. I'm not sure if he's hearing you.
Yes,
Mr. Ngoma?
That's what I'm trying to get to, whether he would have heard the point.
Good evening. Yes, Chair, I heard the point, Chairperson. But if you can check, Chair, after that error was picked up by Honorable Mackenzie, I realized that the list was the one that was actually the first list that I had actually sent was the one that was still work in progress, Chair. So the recent list, Chair, the last one which was emailed, Chairperson, does not have Della Togna. Is the one that have 126 candidates. Just also, Chair, to clarify how maybe even Della Togna's name was there, because I was working from the previous ICASA list, Chairperson, which had those names. So I was just updating with the new names of the candidates that had applied for MDDA. So the recent one, Chair, that was shared with the members, which contains 126 names, together with 126 summaries, doesn't have Della Togna, but instead at number 12, it has Mr. Dlamini, Mr. Wanda Dlamini.
Okay. So that has been clarified. With that clarity, I think it helps to get to the next phase then.
Chair.
Who wants to speak? Is that Honorable Majusi? Okay.
Yes, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm not sure if the numbering of candidates was correctly done. I'm not sure whether they got it from the other previous, or because here, when we looked at the recent one that was sent, that has 126. It has candidates 71, 72, and it doesn't have 73, but it has 2 74s. I'm not sure if they did see that thing, but it doesn't change the numbers that we have. It's just that there's 2 candidates that have 74, 74, so that it does not create a confusion that if someone has listed both 74s, then they must also list their surnames so that they know who is who, because there's no 73, but there's 74 and 74.
Hi, Chair.
Yes, Tembi.
Okay, Chairperson, just to clarify, I'm not sure what could have happened with the documents, but Chairperson, there's a list of documents that I shared. I'm just quickly going through the date to be exact. That I shared on Tuesday, the 12th, Chairperson, and that list on 71, Chair, 74, it has candidate Mr. Tumelo Mpulukeng, and there's only 174, and candidate 75 is Mr. Chengetseni Mutau. That was the list that was shared with the members of the subcommittee after Mr. Mackenzie had corrected me, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I also have the correct list. I don't have the 274s. My list is completely correct. Thank you, Chair.
So, Honorable Mackenzie, you got the corrected list because you are the complainant. But it's for us now. All members are raising those discrepancies. I think what gets to be of interest would be whether indeed the Honorable Member there said, Honorable Machozi, that it doesn't change the numbers in what shares, but she wanted to be sure that there's no mistake again because of that duplication of numbers. We've also got an explanation with regard to how that name could ended up on a list when it was not supposed to be on that list. So in that score,
Chair, just
yeah, I'll give you an opportunity, Honorable Machozi, followed by Honorable Kubeka.
Yeah, there were two documents that were sent on the 12th of May. Is the MDDA list and the MDDA board summary. That's what I'm talking about. Because the list, it shows that there's 74 and 75. But when you do your own analysis of the profiles, then you get two 74s there. You don't get a 75. That is what I'm talking about.
Aye, Chair.
I'll give you. Honorable Kubeka.
Chair, I'm sorry, man. I don't know, or it was on my side or on that side on the issue, because now I've messed up. When we were supposed to ask to say, let them clarify the issue of Dela there, I couldn't hear anything because now I was lost in the network. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Tembinkosi, you clarified the point raised by Honorable Machozi, as well as just to capture the point on Latonga and how that name came in there. Yeah.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Honorable Machozi, I've just gone through the summaries. 74, the first 74 is actually 73. You'll notice it's 72. And then it's 74, 74. So thank you very much for that. The first 74 is actually 73. If you check on the list, it will then correspond. Honorable Kupeka, Ms. Delatokna's name on the list, it was because I worked from the ICASA council list to fill in the names of candidates and whether the submission is complete or not. So she had applied on the previous ICASA council that we had just completed. So that list was just work in progress. So that's how her name had gotten to be there. Otherwise, she would not have been part of this process. She's a current sitting MDDA board member. Apologies for that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, so that was the clarity given, Honorable Kubeka, on the name. I'm sure Honorable Machozi, there's clarity now on the matter. It doesn't change the candidates per se, but just the numbering. So having said that, I think we now have clarity. We'll now get to the actual discussion of names. The approach would be similar to how we would have handled the names. I just want to be sure before we move to that space, I'm trying to locate Honorable Pambo, unless he's using another phone. I can't see it on my system on this side. Just to check with the administration, has he been able to connect?
Chairperson, he has not been, he has not responded to my communication to him. I've sent him all the necessary information. I've tried to call him. I've sent him a message to ask if he's experiencing any challenges so that we could assist. But at the time I spoke to him, Chairperson, he had just asked that I resend the login details. But I see he asked that I resend the login details, which I did. We sit and wait, Chair, but because he has not responded on my WhatsApp messages. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I think given the numbers we have and in the way we would have handled these processes before, we have adequate numbers to proceed in any way, including from a decision-making point of view. In any way, we'll still have to report to the main committee after this, so there'll still be an opportunity there for members to have a bite. Otherwise, we may prolong the meeting for no reason if we do not know what could be the challenges at this point in time. So if you agree, I would want us to proceed.
Agreed, Chairperson.
All right. So if we so agree, we'll do as we did previously. We'll allow parties to make a presentation on terms of the names that they would have looked at, given also what has been shared with us by the content advisor. I'll start differently so that we are able to move quicker. I'll start from the smaller parties to the main opposition, and then the movement provides direction later, so that we are moving quicker. So I'm doing so that in case Honorable Pambo may connect before we finish the presentations, at least he would still make an input before the NC would make an input. Can we do that? I will start with Mbogod, Honorable Majosi, and if the IFP list. Mr. Maleka, you will help us in the same way you've helped before, and the team in sharing this and so on, right? So, Honorable Majosi, do you want to make an input at this point?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not sure how you handled the previous shortlisting of the ICASA. Remember, I did not attend that meeting. I was not present. But I'm not sure, because what I have done, I have read all the candidates and then and then shortlisted the ones that I thought were possible for us to look at. But because we had a long list of 126, I went overboard. I think I shortlisted about 70 something. I only realized later that we only need 4. So I'm not
20.
sure if you want 20. Yes. So I'm not sure if you want me to go through the whole 74 shortlisted.
No, just those you remember, Honorable, put them up. Of course, you can't have 70, you know. I'm sure you remember the 4 you worked on, at least. Yes. I'm sure you remember the 4 you worked on, at least.
Yeah, I have candidate number 1, Lionel Ricardo. And candidate H is going to be very difficult because, Chairperson, I didn't write.
Not just
yeah.
Give names, trace the candidate number.
Okay, and I have candidate 3, which is Miss Lichelle Berry, and candidate Candidate 6, which is Miss Sibusisiwe Chimombe, and candidate number, wow.
Yeah, just give the name. We'll be able to trace the candidate number.
Okay, and it's candidate, let me see. I made a mess. Candidate 20, which is Kakaza Nomfundo. And candidate 21, which is Khomu Buitumelo. And also candidate number 25, which is Kuitsi Blaze. Is it Miss Kuitsi Blaze? Yes. And also candidate number 26, Kondile Unati. Do you still want me to proceed, Chairperson, or?
No, you can. As I said, just call those that are up on the list, and then if you would remember one that you thought was key, we can still get back to that later in case you think it's not covered by other parties.
Okay, and Magadla Siyabonga, in fact, and also Makafula Joe, candidate 37, and also candidate 38, and I also have candidate Mamitsa, candidate 40, and I also have candidate number, okay, where is it? I think it's number 50, 58 and 59 and 60. And I have 87, 88, 93, 94, and 100.
Okay, we'll note that and get back to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't have Honorable Pambo as yet. Okay, we'll now get to Honorable Mackenzie. Is that Honorable Pambo?
No, it's not in yet, Chairperson.
Oh, okay, I thought it was him. Honorable Mackenzie?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, colleagues. Chairperson, I also had a lot of difficulty when I went through the list. I thought, given the mandate of the MDDA, what we'd be looking for is somebody with a sort of broad range of skills across the media sectors. So I try to find people with those sort of skills rather than general management skills or overall management skills, because I thought in terms of the president's prerogative to appoint people, he could appoint those strong sort of people in those positions. So based on that, if I can just give you some names as we go, I agree with Mrs. Barry Lachelle, Ms. Lachelle Barry, sorry. Then that's number 3, then number 4, number 5, number 6, and then number 7, I think, and I'd be interested to know, obviously, to interview that person. Also agree on 25. And I found both number 63 and number 65 quite interesting. Then number 77, number 78, number 79, number 80, and number 84. And then number 96. and number 122. And I'll just stop there for now, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Now we are on Honorable Kubeka.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. At least this time you said the bulldozer must come after the last. And also let me welcome these other parties as they have presented their names, and also indeed they showed that they done their homework. You can see when coming to name the numbers there, to say indeed Honorable Mackenzie went through from 1 up to 126. So, Chair, I've got only 19 names that I would like to present from the side of African National Congress. I would just ask, because now Minage, I have write it in names, not in numbers. I'm having Lionel Ricardo, I'm having Barry Lynchell, I'm having Buku Luzuku, I'm having Uchimombe Sibusisiwe, Utake Marina, Udela Tonga, Yuthin Benedict, Leonard Brenda, Kakaza Nomfundo, Ukedama Kondile, Kumalo, Liyatabisile, Umateza Dumile, Umathebula Hlengani, Umbabane Simpiwe, Umutine Rosi, Unaidu Edwin, Ungcingwana Andiswa, Uthengimfene Nikelwa, bese ndigqibezela ngoVilakazi Ayanda. Those are the names that I'm having. It's 19 names. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, may I just check, because I'm sure there's still a struggle there to attach a name to a candidate number from the team that's reconciling, so that we are sure that there is no name that has been left. Right?
Chair.
Yes. Oh, you are done. Oh, that's good.
No, we're not done, Chair. We're still trying to put numbers to the names. I'm not sure how Mr. Malika captured, but I'm almost sure that there is one name that I've missed, of which we will, when the honourable member goes through the names again, we'll probably pick up who that candidate is. And Chairperson, I think just to correct again, I heard the honourable member mention Ms. Delatona, and of which we had clarified earlier that she's not part of this process. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, I have to agree, just to check with Mr. Malika whether I've been able to consolidate.
Chairperson, we're still busy. I'm just waiting for input, Mr. Ngoma, from Kamaga Honorable Gupega, but the other two I've done. I just need to, because I was dealing with numbers. Now I'm trying to put the names to the numbers. Yes, please, if we can just be allowed a little short while, Chair.
Okay, can we agree, members, that we do it in 5 minutes? We use the same 5 minutes to try and check if Honorable Pambo may not be struggling to connect.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, please push for 1850 that we are done with the reconciliation for screening, right?
Come on. 63. 25. 6.
Hi, Chair. Hello, Chairperson.
Yes, is that Temingosi?
Yes, Chair. Chairperson, I just wanted to check whether it would be okay if I read the names as presented by Honorable Kubeka with I will call out the number and read the name so that she can just tell us where maybe we need to fix, Chairperson.
Yeah, you can just read the names, or we allow Honorable Kubeka just so that you cross-reference, especially with the exclusion of the other name.
Yes, Chair.
Yes. Then you can check yours, Mr. Ngom.
All right, Chair. Then we'll wait for Honorable Member then to read the names. But if you can just be a little slow, Chairperson.
Please.
Honorable Kubeka.
Yes, Lionel Ricardo Adendorf.
Yes, ma'am.
His number?
Number one.
Number 1. Perry Lichel.
Number 3.
Bukuluzuko.
Bukuluzuko, number 5.
Chimombe Sibusisiwe.
Sibusisiwe Chimombe, number 6.
Utlake Marina.
Clarke Marina, candidate number 7.
Muthin Benedict.
Benedict Muthian, candidate number 77.
Leonard Brenda.
Leonard Brenda, candidate number 29.
Kakaza Nomfundo.
Kakaza Nomfundo. It's number 20.
Keda Makondile.
Keda Makondile, candidate number 23.
Kumalolia Tabisile.
Alolia, candidate number 24.
Mateza Dumile.
Mile Mateza, candidate number Mateza. Sorry, just a sec. Tumile Mateza, candidate number 121.
Matebula Hlengane.
Tebula, candidate number 48.
Babane Simpiwe.
Babane, candidate number 50.
Mutene Rosi.
Mutene, candidate number 70.
Naidu Edwin.
Naidu, candidate number 78.
Ungcingwana Andiswa.
Ngwana, candidate number 82.
Tengimfene Nikelwa.
Nikelwa Tengimfene, candidate number 113.
Ayanda Vilagazi. The last
Ayanda Vilagazi, candidate number 116.
Thank you, Chair.
I take it that you've been able to note it in that score, and I'm sure you'll be exchanging your notes now. At 18:55, I think we should start. But what I have then is that Honorable Pambo, because I'm trying to check the message here, they've been trying to call him in between, but is not able to pick up calls and so on. And in that score, that is that, so we'll proceed on the basis of what has been submitted. I will then ask that those names be flighted. Of course, I'm sure you've also done checking those names that are common from different parties and those that may not be common, so that we know which areas to have a discussion on. Mr. Malika, are you ready to flight the names from each party so that each party can then confirm that they are captured as such?
Yes, Chair. Ngoma, am I able to flight from my side, or must I send to you?
Yes, you can flight from your side. Yes, if you just go to share, the button next to the mic.
Okay, I see it. Yes. At least I'm learning something.
I have to assist you, Mr. Malek.
Thank you, sir. I'm hoping that it's shared now. It should be. Can everyone see it? Can you see Mr. Ngoma? Chairperson? I'm not sure if it's working. Is it not working? Okay, let's try again. Hello. Mr. Ngoma?
We can hear you.
Oh,
but we are able to see it. Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you see what I'm sharing? I was trying to see if you can see.
We can see the screen and we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Everyone went quiet. That's why I wasn't sure. All right. Honorable Chair, as you will notice that there's only a few that are common across the board, and that would include the ones that I've marked with green. You'll bear with me, Chairperson, because I was still busy with that, so it's not complete as you would like it to be. But so far, and I'm sure Mr. Ngoma will assist if I've missed any, the ones that I've marked with green are the ones that are appearing across all the parties, and that is number 3, candidate number 3, Miss Berry Lichelle, and Miss Chimombe Sibusiswe, and then we have number 1, Adendorf Lionel Ricardo, appears for the NC and the IFP, and we have Muthen Benedict, Miss Benedict, who appears for the DA and the ANC. And we have number 25, Blaisi Kokete, Miss, appearing for IFP and DA. So far, Honorable Chair, those are the ones that I could pick up, unless if I had glaringly missed some. Well, I see there's a one I missed, number 20, Nomfundo Kakaza, is also appearing for IFP and the ANC. I'm not sure if I missed any other. Sometimes you go through this thing and you miss some. I'll be corrected, Chair, if there's any that I've missed.
Chair, just to correct, Mbombo, on the ANC list, you've left out candidate number 26, Unati Kondile. On the ANC side.
Chair, no, Unati, I don't have Unati.
Number 26, you don't have, Honorable Member?
No, I don't have Unati. I'm having Kedama Kondile, not Unati. There's Unati, there's Kedama.
Oh, Kedama Kondile. Oh, yes. Sorry, yes. Okay, sure. Number 23, okay, it's there. Okay, Chair. No, from my side, I think that's what I wanted to correct, Chair. I'm just busy cross-referencing with the other parties.
Number 29 from my side.
Mr. Malega?
Mr. Ngoma?
Mr. Malega?
Yes, sir.
If you can add number 5 on the DA. There's number 5.
Luzuwa.
Are you fine now? May I just check, Honorable Majozi, with regard to your names, I know that you've been trying to remember as many as you can. At least the ones you mentioned are there. Let's start there.
Sorry,
Yes,
Chairperson.
thank you. Yeah, the ones that I've mentioned are there. But as I said, Chairperson, I had a long list of about 70 something. So I'm still double checking if maybe the ones that I listed here are not the priority that I wanted them to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we'll get to that in the discussion. Just to check again from the side of the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me just drop this hand. Chair, I noticed that number 78 Naidu on the ANC list and 78 Naidu on the DA list are the same. That's Mr. Edwin Naidu. It's the same person.
Okay.
And then we've also got on the ANC list Marina Clark, and on the DA list Marina Clark. And I'm sure, given the requirement for disability or representation from the disabled community, I'm sure majority of the IFP wouldn't have an issue with that. And that's what I can see just at first glance, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So from the side of the ANC, you've corrected those that you needed to correct, right? But I still see a blank there. What is 48 blank?
I'm putting the names, Chair. I'll put it now.
Matebula Kengwa.
Okay.
Yes. $70 there.
Right, can we try and narrow down the names, maybe starting first on whether members do agree that at least those that agree as names that appear on all, there's a sense of agreement there.
Yes, sure.
I'm saying if you can start on that, maybe Mr. Malika, you'll then draw another list that talks to what we are doing now, so that we know what slots we remain with.
Can he complete? Yes, please. The last name. Pilagazayanda.
Okay.
Sorry, Chairperson, if I hear you correctly, you want me to eliminate those that are common, that we've already seen that are common. So we've got only...
Just prepare for us on this basis so that we know if members do agree. First is the green ones. If we can just note those that are common. You said that will be what, 2 names or 3? I'm saying the green, where all parties agree. Right. That's Berry, that's Chimombe. Right? So that takes us to 2. Is it agreed? Then we get to at least those that are common between the
yellow
of the parties with the majority parties that agreed. I'm saying we're just applying same approach to previously in order to at least narrow down the numbers, and we only have a discussion where there's a point of difference. Yes. So I'm just saying that there are names that the Democratic Alliance agrees with the ANC, so list those, and the names that the ANC agrees with the IFP.
The IFP.
Then we can check the slots remain. okay?
Almost done, Chair. Just 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay.
Khakhaza mbo. Nomfundo Khakhaza. That's it.
Okay, Chairperson, I think that's all we have now. So the most common is between the majority party and the ANC. And then we've got 1 for DA and IFP, and we've got 2 for ANC IFP.
Okay. Okay.
So that gives us 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 names.
9 names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Honorable members, I'm not sure this will assist in guiding the meeting. I think the strive has been to try and ensure that in as far as it's possible, that we find agreement and not get to a meeting of using numbers, not because we don't have the numbers, but it is because we take the process to be an inclusive process, and as far as we can, we should still strive for sufficient consensus. The ANC would have presented 19 names. Remember that as per the resolution of the committee, we are looking at 20 names. And in those names, we can safely say 8 names would appear in different ways with the different parties. Am I right on the numbers? That will be 8, right? Because the other one is DA IFP name, right? Yes. As I say, maybe that's something parties may consider, is that if you look at the names that have been proposed, where there have been some sense of agreement either way, they do take into account women, they do take into account males, of course, so I'm just talking to the gender part. They do also take into account the non-racial aspect. I think there was an important point raised about people with disabilities as part of the names that have already been considered. So if you talk demographics of the country, at least there is that sense there may be issues around youth and so on. But I think if we agree on those names, we'll then be left with the DA IFP name, which may not be appearing from the side of the ruling party. Maybe that's something to discuss, because if we're saying all those other aspects are covered, mind you, this is still shortlisting. It's not the recommendations on the 4 names. It's the list we must take from. That if we so agree, would be that because those names appear everywhere, almost everywhere else, I'm saying almost, because there may be some disagreements here and there, and that we in fact look at those names and agree that maybe that's what the NC, DA and the EFF, and the IFP can look at. Is that to get us to 20? Maybe agree that because ANC presented 19 names, that we include that name of the DA IFP to make the 20 in that score, taking into account that other names are common almost firstly on the first line of the green, but also on the party-to-party situation. Of course, noting that the EFF factor of being absent would not know what the thinking is, so that we don't get to a point where we really need to vote for the names, but use those that we have agreed upon, at least as an anchor in our sufficient consensus. So that's what I want to put before yourselves. I know in a virtual meeting this is quite difficult, because in a committee room it would be easy to suspend for now and get people out of the system and allow parties to persuade each other than getting into a vote situation. So I was just saying, maybe as a starting point, that's what we need to look at. Those names are agreed, and they appear mostly in the NC list, and then maybe persuade that that name that the other parties agreed to, we put it as last, and address any gap on the list if there is still any gap. Then we'll have, in a way, 20 names without us voting on each name. But I'm putting it ready to guide the process. Can I get who's want to speak now?
Yes, Chair, it's me, Honorable Majosi.
Majosi, all right.
Yes. No, Chair,
And also, Chair,
Honorable Kubeka, noted. Honorable Majosi, I will ask you to. Honorable Majosi.
Yes,
I'm just trying to note hands first. I will ask you to start, right? So it's yourself, then there was Mackenzie, and there's Honorable Kubeka.
thank you, Chair.
Honorable Majosi.
Okay, thank you, Chair. No, on my list here, I can see that I made a mistake with 34 and 100. In fact, it was supposed to be 97 and 116. It's Ayanda, I think. Not Sia Kamela. On number 100, I think I made a mistake with 100. Instead of looking at 116, I thought it's 100 and it's 116. So I just want to change that, 116. I think it's Ayanda. And number 34. It's not Makadla Siyabonga. It was supposed to be 97. Candidate number 97, who is Peterson Nolita. It's Miss Peterson Nolita. Yes. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make that correction first before maybe we move forward in terms of discussing the names.
Chairperson. Hi, Chair.
Is that Temingos?
Yes, Chairperson is Temingos. Chairperson, with the inclusion, then I think that is what Boy is currently working on the screen of 116 by Honorable Matrosi. There would then be another common name between the IFP and the ANC, that of Dr. Ayanda Villagas. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Still, that will take us to 10. Can we then get, because that was just a correction, Honorable Majosi, which then changes the number, but still the issue of the principle that I'm testing with yourselves here, so that we are able to move forward as to what your take is on that.
Thank you, Chair. No, I mean, we are not married to the names. We can discuss the names that are here, and maybe convince each other of which ones to take. But we are submitting a list of 20, if I'm correct. Then which means we just 10. We can then see which ones do we want to, because we cannot compare the other names with the other ones, because my problem is that the only thing that we see on the screen is the listed names that are common, but we don't see our lists.
No, the lists are there. That is where you were making the correction. That's the list.
Yes, I was making that correction because I saw it on my paper, Chairperson. So now,
yes. No, all I'm saying is that it is those names that raised up top.
Yes.
Yes. Then at the bottom, it is where we are capturing what is common between parties and so on. And that's the list. Okay. But I can still come back to you, Honorable Machozi, on the issue I have asked about the principle to get to 20. But let me hear Honorable Mackenzie before Honorable Kubeka.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for clarity seeking purposes, the two people we've highlighted in green automatically form the top of our list. Forget about priority, just form. Yes. So we're looking for another 18. What you're suggesting is that we take the names that we found in common between the parties, populate the rest of the numbers to that. So how many people is that? And then take the balance from the ANC list. Is that correct?
Yeah. If I may come in there, exactly that's where we are. The first one was that the green is common to all parties. Therefore, we take those as like in on the list. As I say, correctly so, not in order of priority, whatever you call it, but they make it into the 20. Okay? Then you then have those names that are common between the DA and the majority party, those that are common between the IFP and the majority party. We're then saying, maybe let's take all those names also into the 20. Then that takes us to 10.
10.
Right? Now, you then have the DA IFP name, which is common, but not common with the majority party. So the suggestion was to say, instead of us voting on the names, anyway, the ANC presented 19, not 20 names. That we also agreed to have that name in as like 20 if the ANC was presenting those names. Then that takes us to 11. You'll correct me there, Mr. Malika. Then that takes us to 11 names. Then you have the 9 remaining names. And that is where we're saying, so that we don't really vote on the names. Can we agree that at least out of 11 names, there's some sense of sufficient consensus, and the remaining names, we can take them from the list Honorable Kubeka presented. But come back, Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to be clear on this. There's one name in this list that we absolutely cannot support. Would we then discuss this at a later stage, perhaps during the interview stage or after that? So we're not debating the merits or demerits of particular candidates now. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Yes, you are correct, Honorable Mackenzie. Yes.
Then I'm happy with the proposal, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Kubeka.
No, Chair, I think you have covered me because I was there's a noise, Chair, behind. I don't know where.
Please, whoever is joining the meeting, just make sure that you mute your mic.
Thank you, Chair. I think you have covered me because I was going to say, since while we are sharing all of us this, the green one, number those two names. And then let's agree with all these the yellow ones, because now you can see that on both sides, ANC, DA, and and IFP, we are at least already having sharing the same sentiments with those names. As you said, we need to put it on that name. So as you are saying on that list, at the moment we are having this 11 names at the moment that we are agreed upon. Let's now going to those ones, because now we are left with 9 names in order that we can finalize to make that 20, Chair. I was gonna propose that thing to say, let's agree with the yellow ones and the green ones to say, let it be or on the list. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Kubek, yes, Mr. Malika, before I make the correction, yeah?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I think there might be a mistake here. In terms of the names of the ANC, there's 18, Chairperson, of the names coming from the party ANC. And in terms of the commonalities, the ones that are most common between all the parties, with the exception of the one of the IFP and DA, they sum up to 9. If you add Koitsi Plaisi, which is the one that's common between DA and IFP, then it becomes 10. So I'm not sure whether I am missing something with Mr. Ngoma. Perhaps you can clarify that, Chair.
Chair, can you give me?
Okay. Honorable Faku.
Chair, thanks. Greetings to you and greetings to members. I just want to check with the whip of the ANC, because when she was reading names, there's a name that I don't see in her list. I think she said that she's got 19 names, but now I only see that there are 18 names. There's a name of Delacroix Martin that does not appear on the list.
All right, honorable members, let me try and come back to the point. It would appear that Honorable Mackenzie heard my point. And that's why I said he agrees. I note you, Honorable Machosi. We just needed the calculation in terms of the names. That's why I was asking Mr. Malika whether is it 10 or 11 now. This is after there was 116, which was appearing in the ANC, but in the IFP it appeared as 100. And then there was a change that was made again by the IFP where they put 97, right, instead of 34. So when those changes were made, that's why we're checking whether bringing 116, is it Dr. Ayanda, whether that took us to 10 or 11, if you include the name of the... Okay, so you've put that, right? So it's 9.
Chair?
Then if you put that other name, it will be then 10. I'm saying the one where it is the IFP and the DA.
ANC.
No.
IFP and ANC.
No. IFP and DA. That's what makes the 10 now. So in essence, it means you are saying we had 9. That is it, Mr. Malika, isn't it? That's what you are saying?
Yes, Chair. Correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, in that score, it means you then have 10 spaces to look at. Honorable Kubega, are you saying I'm out of order?
No, Chair, I won't say that. No, can I just understand to say that number of 116, was it not for ANC and IFP of Dr. Vilakazi?
Yes, Honorable Kubeka, that's why it's there. It's under the column of the ANC IFP, right at the back.
All right.
Last column, right? So it's there. But all I'm saying is that the calculation we're making was 11 instead of 10. So we have 10. And that 10 includes, is it Kutsi Place, the IFP DA name. Okay?
Correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, the proposal, which is what Honorable Mackenzie was entertaining at this point, was that what I'm putting forward before you, which I wanted comments on, was that if you look at the names that we have put, whether you say green, yellow, whatever you call them, and the name that the IFPDA agrees on, which makes...
Excuse me, Chair, just one, sorry, Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chair. I just want to clarify one thing that was raised by Honorable Faku with relation to De La Togna. That name is not
Honorable
included.
Malik.
Sorry, Chair.
Honorable Malika, I'll give you as Mr. Malika later. Please allow me to chair now.
Sorry, Chair.
Otherwise, I'm looking at the time, we're at 7:28. So I'll still give honorable members a chance to speak, but I want them to engage a principal matter, which Honorable Mackenzie has also tried to entertain. The
Before
point
the
of
chairperson, I wanted there's a correction that I wanted on the list. There's an omission. No, there's an omission that was done by the administration chair. If you look at the list of the NC, number 50, there's Mbabane Simpiwe. On the IFP list, number 50, there's Mbabane Simpiwe as well. They omitted that. Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
my 11 was coming from there, so but it's fine. All I'm saying is, let's just get the principle. Let's try to deal with the principle. Mr. Malika can easily correct that one if it's an omission. That will take us there, but you still have to deal with the remainder of the slots, and that's a principle we're engaging now, so that it helps administratively. We do understand that the ANC presented 19, leave that there's a point raised about one name.
Yes,
which happens to be a sitting councillor. So that's the point I was trying to make. That if the ANC was to present 20 names, amongst those names will be the name that is the DA-IFP name only. So you have 20. I'm saying before you even talk about removal of number, is it 5 or so, that you removed. De La Tonga. So I'm saying just before you even do that. Then we're also saying that you have about 10 names, which are names that you can say there's sufficient consensus that those names are included in the 20 that we'll have. So that makes it 11. Then what the proposal that we're putting on the table to help the meeting is that because we've already accommodated the DA-IFP, is that we then, because we would have included it there, that we take those remaining names that Honorable Kubeka presented, and that makes us to get to the numbers we talked about. Honorable Mackenzie then raises an issue that he will not have a problem with that principle, but there may be a name that necessarily they will never support.
Yes.
But given the stage at which we are in, we are not at this point about demotivating or motivating candidates. It may be a matter that we will deal with it later. Then in that score, you would have had a 20. So I wanted Honorable Majosi at the time to respond to that principle as a way of going forward. But then she used that period to correct. That's why I said, then come back to you, Honorable Majosi, to check if we so agree. So what I'm trying to say, Honorable Kubeka, already the issues about the color coding, we have dealt with them. We've passed that stage. We're dealing with the 9 remaining, and we're putting up a
Thank you, Chair.
Which is what we would want to hear. We'll come back to the Delatonga. That's why I said we'll come back to that, because initially you presented it. It is removed out of correction. Okay. And if it's removed out of correction, maybe we can also persuade the IFP that maybe in the last correction that they have made of Peterson, we increase the numbers there, because Delatonga, unless I'm incorrect, Mr. Malika, whether Delatonga would fall in terms of gender, the female side of things, right?
Yes, Chair, she is female.
Yes.
She's the current serving board member, female.
Yes, which is the reason she was removed from the list. And I'm saying maybe we can persuade the IFP to have their Peterson there in that space. Then we have 20 names that are full. So that we don't really vote in the 9 spaces as which name to put, when we could be able to reach sufficient consensus on a bigger number of names. And these names are not the 4 names anyway for recommendation. It is just the names that we must get. So that's what I want to get from the other parties. And then we can then come back to the point you, Mr. Malika, may want to still help us on the actual numbers later. But I want us to engage a principled matter. Otherwise, we are also holding up the next committee meeting in a way, so that we can get back to that. Otherwise, we've not. That's how we handled the ICASA, was persuasion, rather than trying to insist on this and that from a party point of view, but try to be quite accommodative. So that's what I would want to put before you. It does not mean that other members have no responsibility in this regard. They will also have an opportunity to comment. But I just thought those who have led the parties in presenting, can we get some consensus on that?
Disagreed, Chairperson.
Honorable Mackenzie agreed.
Agreed, Chairperson.
Honorable Machoza agrees. Honorable Kubega.
Thank you, Chair. We are agreeing because it's only 8 that was left on that side, as you have pointing, to say, let them just assist me to complete the list, Honorable Chairperson, for that 20, as it was just a few numbers that have been left behind here.
Okay. Now I can get back to Mr. Malika. I'm sure he will now understand what I was trying to do. The honorable members can't outsource it to you. They must make their own choices in this regard, so that we don't drag you into that political debate. Now, with that sense, I just want to be sure that, Honorable Mr. Malika, that we are now one on this part.
Yes.
Having done the corrections on, is it Mbabane? It meant that we had those names. We now have corrected the part that when removed Delatonga, then we took the IFP name, the Peterson name. Then the rest of the other names is what remains then in the ANC list, and that gives us the 20 names. And those are the 20 names we'll present to the committee. Right? On the principle that we'll discuss the candidates at the time that we need to look at the candidates in an interview process and so on, to cater for the concerns raised by Honorable Mackenzie before. Are we one on that?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes, Chairperson, agreed.
Yes, I'm just trying to check now with Mr. Malika, who is capturing for us, and I know that he was said to be a statistician, so he should be done by now. So after listening to our debates, yes.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, you are correct.
Yes,
I have made a final list which consists of the majority party names, all of them,
Yeah.
and as well as all those that are common across the parties. And then I also added number 97, Miss Nolita Peterson, who was later added by the IFP on the list as the last person of the 20. So I'm just trying to clean up the list so that we have the exact 20 number of people. Thank you, Chair.
I think with that cleanup that's happening on the side of the content advisor, may I just check honorable members so that we also don't leave it just to be purely political party processes. I think other members, I'm sure you would have been in agreement too. Honorable Faku and Honorable Umbo. Just want to be sure we're still in the meeting.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So with that being cleared, Mr. Malika, you will then help us so that at least when we get to the committee, we can also present this part. You will then help us in the few minutes we have before the other members are also connected on the part that relates to the next process, which is the part in relation to themes and so on, which must help to guide the questions that parties would develop.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, would you like me to continue with it now?
No, all I'm saying is that once you are done with your numbers, I'm just saying when you just say these are the names, but also just get to the point of saying what is the next process. I'm trying to manage the time.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. Chairperson?
Yes.
If I could just indicate that Mr. Pambo has finally joined the meeting, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Pambo, we welcome you back into the meeting. We've been trying to connect with you. We are at a stage where there would have been a sense of agreement with regard to names that we needed to look at in terms of the 20 shortlisted names. The principle we have applied was to try and get as far as possible sufficient consensus on the names instead of the meeting becoming a meeting of numbers, because we have not done that before. So that's where we are. Mr. Malika will, in a short space of time, flight those names, and I'm sure you'll be able to look at those names. But those are the names that have been agreed by all parties as a way of moving forward, understanding that those candidates will be subjected to the interview process. So that's where we are. We do not know if you had particular names that you were to put forward for consideration at the time. But as I say, once the names are flighted, probably you may make your observations. But I can give you an opportunity now to speak before Mr. Malika presents, just to be sure that we are one in understanding where we are now. Honorable Pam. Honorable Pambo. It seems we have a difficulty in connecting. We can't hear completely. Honorable Pambo. Mr. Malika, are you ready now?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm ready. I'll flight it now.
Okay.
So, Chairperson, as it stands, this is the final list. Number 3, as was done in the short list that we circulated to the members. Number 3 is Miss Berry Lichelle. Number 6, Miss Chimombe Sibusisiwe. Number 7, Miss Clark Marina. Number 77, Miss Benedette Mutien. Number 5, Mr. Luzugo Buku. Number 78, Mr. Edwin Naidu. Number 1, Mr. Ricardo Adendorf. Number 20, Miss Nomfundo Kakaza. Number 116, Dr. Ayanda Vilagazi. Mr. 50, Mr. Mbabane Simpiwe. Number 25, Miss Placey Kotsi and Kuti. Number 29, Miss Brenda Leonard. Number 23, Miss Ketama Kondile. Number 24, Miss Leah Kumalo. Number 121, Miss Dumile Mateza. I'm not sure it's a Miss or a Mr. Sorry, Mr. And yes, and then it's Mr. Dumile Mateza. I know him. And then number 48, Mr. Okay, I'm having Microsoft problems, Chair. Sorry. It has this disease of freezing. Apologies, Chair. Technology is failing us a second. I don't know why. But I was almost on the last names.
I can proceed.
Okay, there we go. Right. So it's number 48, Mr. Matebula Hlengane. Number 70 is Miss Rosie Mutene. Number 82, Miss Andiswa Ngingwana. Number 113 is Miss Nikela Tengimvene. And those are the final names, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. If you can check, I think there was there was a name of Miss Nolita Peterson.
Yes.
My apologies. That's the additional name that the chair had proposed. Yes. Apologies, it was on the other side of the page. It's number 97, which is Nolita Peterson. Miss Nolita Peterson. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ngoma.
So those are the names that we agreed upon. It's just that, as I said, I really struggled to get Honorable Pambo, but we'll proceed. Mr. Malika, if you can just on the next process, so that when we report back there, at least there's clarity there. Honorable Pambo. Oh, okay, I saw you connecting. Okay, Mr. Malika, just complete this part about the next process. Yes.
Yes, Honorable Chair. As the members will recall during my presentation, that after we complete the shortlisting process, the next real process is for the support staff and the administration, rather, to take the shortlisted names for the purposes of security vetting and qualifications check. And as we said, that process normally takes us 2 weeks, but with the COVID-19 epidemic, we're not sure how long that process will take. But it will be started in earnest as soon as the committee adopts the report of the shortlisted candidates. A parallel process to that is that the names of the candidates as prescribed by the legislation will need to be publicized, will be published to enable the public to make their comments on the nominated persons. And if any comments come through, of course, the support staff will provide some analysis of the comments that come through from the public during that 2-week process that we publish the names on the website. The names that we publish, we kind of limit the information that we put up on the website so that we don't compromise the candidates that are nominated for the process. As for the committee, of course, our next process will be then to undergo the interview process. Once the security clearance and the vetting has gone on, the qualifications vetting has been processed, we'll sit for the interviews. The interview themes, as we have done with the ICASA process, have already been prepared and will be shared with the committee for that purpose, and we'll probably discuss them in the next process. On my part, Honorable Chair, that's it. I don't know if Mr. Ngoma would like to add something. Thank you.
Mr. Ngoma?
Thank you, Chair. It's just a small issue, Chair, just to remind that in our last meeting we had agreed that we would proceed with the interviews, and run whilst we await those other processes, because we're not sure how long they might take. And if they happen to take too long, we would have completed the interview, but will not report to Parliament until maybe the committee takes a decision if those processes are delaying the committee to move forward. Just thought I should rectify that one, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Malek.
Okay. No, thanks, Mr. Ngoma. Mr. Maleka, I think the point I wanted to get from you in relation to the next process relates to the themes that needed to be looked at. It's just that I tried to hear. I'm not sure whether it's the technology again on my side also.
Sorry, my apologies, Chair. I did not go into the themes. I was not sure if you're giving me a light to go ahead with the themes, but I'm more than happy to.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
what I said you must do. Take us to the next process, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, as I've indicated to you earlier, that we will try to keep to a similar process where we don't prescribe technology, where we don't prescribe questions to the members, but rather provide broader thematic areas where we can discuss, engage on, and let the members ask the questions guided by these thematic areas that we're talking about. So I was trying to flight the document. Let's see if I can now. All right. So in the main, Chairperson, the first kind of theme of the questions is regarding the candidate itself, whether the candidate should actually explain to the committee what really necessitates them to want to serve in the MDDA board for that purpose. And so they need to align their skills and qualifications and experience towards convincing the committee as to why they should serve on the MDDA board. One of the key themes then I really look at is around the legislation and governance impacting on the MDDA. Chairperson, as I alluded to the committee earlier, that the MDDA has been marred greatly of late with issues of governance and adherence to legislation. So it's really critical that whoever the candidate is able to annotate what kind of legislative environment and regulatory environment does the MDDA function under. So you'll notice on the right side of the columns that I give more of an inference of the type of answers that we'd expect in terms of the response expected from the candidate. Of course, it could be expansive, but because this is a template, I don't put much of the information, but the members are more than welcome to request any of those legislations that are mentioned there, should they need to sort of delve deeper into that issue. You will notice, Chairperson, that the scoring for the first two themes is 10 and 10. The total will be 100.
Can I interrupt on a point of procedure?
Honorable McKenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just on a point of procedure, we are presenting all this information in a public committee. I presume that's being streamed online. Therefore, any potential candidates can then also access these questions. Is that correct? Thank you, Chair.
I'm sure you do get the point there. That maybe the detail may be a bit of a problem if you flight it, but you can speak to it. That you are looking at those. That's a problem about virtual meeting versus the committee that I've been struggling with for the better part of the day. Thank you, Honorable Mackenzie, you helped us. But I think there's a sense, maybe we need to just agree that honorable members can receive that.
Send us, yes.
Sorry for that.
Yeah, Thank you, Honorable Mackenzie. Of course, with the online meetings, we never know which is the correct way to go, but we try to keep the process as transparent as possible. But I do agree that maybe the detail could allude too much to what the committee will do. But like I say, these are themes, so it doesn't necessarily dictate what kind of question a member could ask. They could ask a specific legislative question coming out of the MDDA Act or out of the King 3 report. So, it's quite broad. These are just thematic areas, just to sort of inspire members to have a questioning around these areas. And it also assists us to be scientific in terms of how we evaluate the candidates thereafter. So having said that, Chairperson, I was talking about the scoring to say that the first two themes, the scoring, the weighting was just at out of 10 out of 10. The first out of 10 is for the candidate to say why they should be considered to serve in the MDDA board. The second one, of course, dealing with the knowledge of the legislation and governance impacting on the MDDA. Now we get to the real crux of the matter, Chairperson, which is the section that deals really with the crux of the MDDA activities. And in this particular thematic area, I try to put it broad as saying no knowledge of the work of the MDDA, because it's very prudent that the person or the candidate that is appointed is quite prevalent with the issues that the MDDA board has to grasp with every day. And the first part of the theme, of the sub-theme, is really looking at the future of the MDDA. And here the weighting was at 30 points. And here I really, Chairperson, want to entice the members to really ask questions around media literacy, illiteracy programs for citizenships, demonstrate an understanding of the impact of mobile broadband, over-the-top players, the print media in a digital age. How do we regulate broadcasting in a digital era? So we want to find out how the candidate positions themselves in their role as a board member of the MDDA in a futuristic MDDA, in a fourth industrial revolution, charged environment. The second sub-theme really looks at the key regulatory institutions that are impacting on the work of the agents. So here again, Chairperson, we expect that the candidate should have some understanding of the work of the ICASA and
Honorable members. Honorable members, because I see you, some of you raising hands, so I know you are trying to caution again. Mr. Malika, I think what we should agree is that you will send the honorable members the actual document that you prepared. I think they have a sense that there are themes that have been developed. I think it's unavoidable not to get to the point of saying what to expect in that scope from a theme. In that way, we are falling to what Honorable Mackenzie warns us about. That it would look like those who have got interest on the matter may see it like a given. But Honorable Mackenzie, I think what still is a safeguard is that we're not dealing with the questions that honorable members would develop. It just serves as a guide for members to develop proper questions in that regard. So I was just saying, Mr. Malika, because I see honorable members raising hands, so that I help you. It's my responsibility to protect you, that you are able to proceed from here. So I hope that you are taking it in that spirit. That in essence, it's about saying there's a sense we know where we're going. You will send the documents to each of the members to help guide the questions that members will develop going forward. But I think we have a sense. This includes what Mr. Ngoma raised, that we understand that we will proceed subject to us getting those qualification verification process completed before we can put a final report before Parliament. So if that is agreed, in the next 4 minutes, I know that we have up until 9. In the next 4 minutes, let's just get confirmation that all other members who are not members of the subcommittee are getting connected. Otherwise, what we will then have in the next meeting will be our report will be presented in the way we know, including the names that have been agreed, taking into account skills and everything else that we look at, and that there was also consensus in that regard. So that's the report we would have in the next meeting. But I do see Honorable Kubeka is raising a hand before we change this one.
Yes. Chair, I was just going to say,
This
based on the...
This one can't be ours. We are not dealing with SARS. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm just saying, based on the issue of the number that we need to interview, because we are talking about 20, for sure, on the side of the plan, at least in a day, you'll consider for a certain number for the issue of the interviews, Chair. Thanks very much, because this number is too heavy, actually. So I was saying just in a day, at least they will consider to say at least this number will be the number that is going to be interviewed in a day. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. No, I think, Honorable Kubeka, your point is a valid point. I think the team would work with the team just to be sure of what is involved and the time allocations that go with that, and be able to fit the numbers we would like to fit. But the idea has been to complete it in the course of next week, all candidates in that regard, so that we are done on this part. But I'm just saying it may not be a matter we entertain now. We'll deal with it in the plan and then communicate accordingly. If that's agreed, this subcommittee meeting will then stay adjourned as we have concluded the business for the day, and will now connect to the next meeting, and I'm sure the secretarial support will indeed ensure that the report is presented. So can we just get confirmation that all others are now getting connected from the administration?
Thank you, Chairperson. From members who have just joined us, we have Ms. Tembu. Excuse me, Chair, I'm just talking to other members and informing them that they can join the meeting. So if you can just have 2-3 minutes, Chair, just to assist them, and then we can proceed as such. Thank you, Chair.
It's fine. Let's just by 8:05, let's reconvene.
Good evening.
Are we now connected?
Good evening.
Evening.
How are you?
I'm trying to check the greetings from which corner of is it Van Dam? Is it all right? Van Dam.
I was prepared for this meeting, so I'm going to turn my camera off.
So, do we have other members connected, Tembingosi? It's 5 past now.
Hi, Chair. We do have, I managed to get Ms. Van Dam, and the only 2 members that I'm unable to get through to is Mr. Madisha and Mr. Mulala, who's just sent me an SMS now. But yes, Chair, those are the only 2 members, but I'll be responding to Mr. Mulala's SMS as well to hear what is saying. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable members, I think from the point of the numbers, we have got the quorum to proceed and will be updated as members would join. Maybe just for record, the Secretariat would anyway place on record who are the members present. But for now, I will take the opportunity to greet you this evening, honorable members, South Africans who may be following us on different platforms, our guests who are connected to this portfolio committee meeting. We are to consider an item which is a report from the subcommittee tasked by this committee to handle matters that relates to the appointment process for the MDDA board members. Will in that score receive the report of the committee, of the subcommittee for consideration and adoption by the portfolio committee on communications. I take it that the administration would be ready to present a report, but let's start first by just placing on record as to who is finally present to confirm our quorum.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have Honorable Mr. Maneli, that is yourself, Chairperson. And then we have Ms. Alice Mtembu, we have Ms. Nomsaku Beka, we have Ms. Princess Faku, Ms. Zandile Madrozi, Mr. Thomas Gumbu, and we have Mr. Vuyani Pambo. Those are the members that are in attendance, Chairperson. We do have a quorum and can therefore proceed with this meeting. Thank you, Chairperson.
Did I hear my name?
Yes, Honorable Mackenzie, you are present.
Thank you.
In that score, we will then ask the Committee Secretariat to present the report of the subcommittee for consideration and adoption by the committee. you can proceed from there.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to apologize, Ms. Van Dam and Mr. Mackenzie are also present, Chair. Chairperson, this is the interim report of the Portfolio Committee on Communications on the filling of 4 vacancies on the Media Development and Diversity Agency, that is the MDDA board, dated 21 May 2020. The Portfolio Committee on Communications, having considered the request from the Minister in the Presidency, Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in respect of the 4 MDDA board vacancies, reports as follows. A letter dated 4 November 2019 was received from the Acting Speaker of the National Assembly, informing the committee that he had received a letter from the Minister in the Presidency, Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, communicating the existence of vacancies on the board of the MDDA and requesting the Assembly to initiate a process of nominating and recommending candidates for appointment by the President in line with Section 4.1a of the MDDA Act 2002, Act number 14 of 2002. The committee considered the letter from the Minister in the Presidency and the Acting Speaker of the National Assembly and resolved that the committee secretariat should proceed with the process of publishing an advertisement in the media calling for nominations of persons to fill the 4 vacancies on the MDDA board. The advertisement was published in all 11 official languages, in 2 national newspapers, 2 regional newspapers, and 7 community media newspapers, and 126 nominations were received. On 21 May, which is today, the committee met to consider the criteria and skills required to fill the 4 vacancies on the MDDA board, and unanimously recommends that the following 20 candidates be shortlisted for interviews. Chair, I'm just quickly getting to the names of the candidates. Apologies, Chair. I had a report with all the 20 names, Chairperson. I'm just quickly trying to find it here on my screen. Thank you, Chair. My sincere apologies for that. Chairperson, the candidates are as follows. Ms. Lichelle Berry, Ms. Sibusisiwe Chikombe, Ms. Marina Clark, Ms. Benedict Muthian, Mr. Luzuko Buku, Mr. Edwin Naidu, Mr. Lionel Adendorf, Ms. Nomfundo Kakaza, Dr. Ayana Vilakazi, Ms. Blaise Kutsi, Mr. Simpiwe Mbabane, Ms. Brenda Leonard, Mr. Kondile Kedama, Advocate Leah Kumalo, Mr. Dumile Mateza, Mr. Hlengani Matebula, Ms. Nikelwa Tengimfene, Ms. Rosie Mutene, Ms. Nolita Peterson, and Ms. Andy Swangwingwane. That is the 20 candidates, Chairperson, and that is the report of the Portfolio Committee on Communications on MDDA shortlisting of candidates. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, that's the report that the subcommittee presents for consideration and adoption by the committee. I would like to prioritize in particular members who may not be sitting in the subcommittee to be first to speak and therefore get the other members if they want to still speak later on. But I take it that just for an understanding, that's the subcommittee report. It reflects the discussions of the subcommittee. Subcommittee members, that's the understanding. Yeah, agreed. That's the report. Okay, Honorable Mackenzie gives a nod. Can we get other members who are not in the subcommittee? It's your time to make your comments, and then all other members want to speak and then follow. Can I take hands on those who want to speak? Can I take hands, honorable members, for those who want to speak to the report as presented by the subcommittee. Phumzile ungayenzi lento. You can't keep quiet. You can't run away from the meeting.
Chairperson,
Honorable Mthembu is also in
the person presenting my views on this the committee is my very able colleague, Mr. Mackenzie. So I will be guided by him.
That's fine. Honorable Mackenzie agrees with the report, so you are guided. It's fine. Honorable Mthembu, are you connected?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you, Honorable Mthembu.
Thank you. Good evening to all members of the committee. Thank you very much for the good work done by the subcommittee. I just want to accept or to make an acceptance of the report as it is, because I think the subcommittee did a good work and on behalf of all of us. That is what I just want to say, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much for the good work.
Thank you, Honorable Mthembu. May I then check if there's any opposing view in us declaring this report as having been adopted now by the committee, and that it is a committee report now, which has been adopted, so that then the other actions of publicizing the list and issuing our statement can then also happen post this meeting. Is that agreed, honorable members?
Agreed.
Agreed?
Okay,
thank you, Honorable Machuzi, Honorable Mackenzie, Kubeka, all agreed. Honorable Van Dam agrees because Honorable Mackenzie has given clarity. It's agreed. Okay. So that's it's unanimously agreed by the committee. It's now a report of the committee as adopted. So without waste of time, I'm checking Committee Secretary Timgus.
Thank you, Chairperson. You know, Chairperson, I might be scolded by honorable members, but when adopting reports, there's that part that I really like that it be clear, Chairperson. So if you can clarify that part, that last part of the adoption, Chairperson, thank you.
Honorable Mackenzie was just giving direction. Otherwise, from honorable members who are not part of the subcommittee, we did have Honorable Van Dam saying in this regard there's no problem with the report because there's a capable menu set in that subcommittee. Honorable Mthembu also applauded the committee for doing its work, and she has also asked that the committee accept the report as is, to just use the words exactly. So the committee has therefore agreed that this report is now the committee report adopted unanimously. Right. So that's agreed again. Do you still want us to say something else? For record purposes.
Is
that what you are saying?
No.
For record purposes,
Except
is there
that
anything we're missing? No, Honorable we are not outsourcing the power to him. We just want to be sure that in case the record is challenged, they should say we advised, but we're not listened to. So the record is straight.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chairperson. I think that was more like it, except to say, Chairperson, of which this is, except to inform members that those themes have been emailed to them. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable members, you look at those themes in the way you'll develop your questions. I really do not want to waste the time of the committee when the committee has been so efficient in terms of time. I know it's 18 past 8 and the meeting is scheduled up until 9. I don't want to say you really miss each other because we are one committee that has been meeting almost every day. So we have been seeing each other. We have now come to the conclusion of the business of this evening. Thanks, honorable members, for making time.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tempe.
All right. Bye.
Good night, Chair.